Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and we are back with more notable names in Hispanic American, Latin American heritage, or the Heritage Month. This was meant to be Friday's video, but anyway, today we are looking at the great performer, singer, actor Desi Arnaz, who most people might know as husband to Lucille Ball. Hey, Lucy, I'm home. But yeah, sorry. Still had a lot of flavoring on my fingers where I've been eating my chips. Pickle flavor. Anyway, yeah. Desi Arnaz from biography.com. Cuban-born actor, musician who was remembered for his marriage to Lucille Ball and the TV show they both starred on, I Love Lucy. He fled Cuba to the U.S. with his family in 1933. And early success led to him being offered the role in the 1939 Broadway musical Too Many Girls, and he later starred in the film version where he met his future wife, Lucille Ball. In 1949, they developed the hit television series I Love Lucy, which ran for 6 years. His name was Desiderio Alberto Arnaz III, and he was born March the 2nd, 1917 in Santiago de Cuba, Cuba. The Arnaz family were fairly well off, and the thing here says they were a wealthy family, but they fled Cuba for Miami after a revolution in 1933. After working a number of odd jobs to help support the family, Desi got his first musician's gig as a guitarist for the Siboney Septet. After working briefly for Xavier Cugat in New York, Arnaz returned to Miami to lead a combo of his own and introduce the conga line to American audiences. It was such a hit, both locally and nationally, Arnaz returned to New York to start his own band. He was offered a role in the 1939 Broadway musical Too Many Girls and later starred in the Hollywood film version. It was there that he met future wife Lucille Ball, and they were married in 1940. Arnaz made 3 more films before being introduced to the inducted into the Army during World War II. Remember, World War II took place, well, the U.S. entered in 42, so, yeah. During his 2-year service in the 2 years in the service, he was responsible for entertaining the troops. He formed a new orchestra after being discharged and recorded several hits during the late 1940s. During his time, he served as orchestra leader on Bob Hope's radio show from 46 to 47. So he's up there with big names. Entertaining troops, and then orchestra leader for Bob Hope. Of 1949, Arnaz turned his efforts to developing the hit television series I Love Lucy, which ran for 6 years and became the most successful television program in history. There was reruns all over the place. Even when I was a kid, I remember it. So, yeah. Arnaz and Ball had a clear goal in mind, which when the series began development. Not only did they request the show be shot on film as opposed to the cheaper kinescope, they also retained full ownership of the program under the production company Desi Productions. And you can see where the name comes from. Desi Arnaz, Lucille Ball, Desi Productions. Show aired in 1951 and touched on many personal and taboo issues of the time, including marriage and pregnancy. And as a couple, both on and off camera, Arnaz and Ball's show had parallels to their actual marriage, giving birth to their son on the show on the same day that Ball gave birth to their son in real life. Wow. The novelty of the series, coupled with Arnaz and Ball's strong chemistry, proved to be a success. I Love Lucy became the #1 show in the country for 4 of its 6 seasons and ended in 1957. His marriage to Ball would end in 1960. He sold his share of Desi Productions to Ball in 1963, and after that, Arnaz made a few forays into television, working largely behind the scenes. He served as a producer on such shows as The Mother-in-Laws in the late 60s, and with his second wife, he lived in Del Mar, California. He would die of cancer at home there in 1986 at the age of 69. So, even though they separated, it doesn't seem to be too badly off. One might even say it was amicable. So, interesting. Let's see if they say anything else on here. I don't care about astrological signs. But yeah, he's from Cuba. His family was. They had an actual son, Desi Arnaz Jr., in January 1953, same day little Ricky was born on the show for I Love Lucy. But yeah. Let's look at Britannica. Anyway, Cuban-born musician, actor, business executive, best known for I Love Lucy with his real wife, Lucille Ball, and introduced a number of innovations that revolutionized television and laid the groundwork for modern sitcom. Yeah, like we said, they actually said, hey, we want it on film, not just kinescope. So, yeah. Born into a prominent Cuban family, his father was mayor of Santiago, and his maternal grandfather helped found the Bacardi Rum Company. So that's where a lot of the money, I'd say, really came from, because Bacardi's a big name today when it comes to rum and stuff. Political unrest in 1933. The family would flee to Miami, Florida. They initially lived in an abandoned warehouse, and the family members, including Arnaz, worked a series of menial jobs, just whatever they could to survive. During this time, he also pursued his passion for music, and within a few years, he began playing the drums in the Latin orchestra. Let's see. Working for Xavier Cugat in New York. Show Too Many Girls. Yeah, Broadway musical Too Many Girls. 1940 film adaptation meets Lucille Ball. They would wed in 1940, but their marriage soon strained by Arnaz's drinking and alleged infidelity. So he had a little, yeah, trouble keeping it in his pants. During this period, he appeared in several films, including Father Takes a Wife, For Jacks and Jill, The Navy Comes Through, and Baton. In 43, he was drafted, so we were already a year in. But a knee injury prevented him from seeing actual combat, so instead he was assigned to the USO to entertain. After being discharged, he resumed his orchestra touring by 1946 and was performing Babalu, which became his signature song, which we know he served under Bob Hope. Which Bob Hope himself was big with the USO entertaining troops. Desilu, television executives worried that the American viewers would object to Arnaz's heavy accent and would not find the couple's pairing believable. To demonstrate their appeal, Arnaz and Ball took their act on the road, so showcasing their chemistry and comedic abilities. People adored the fiery comedic interactions between the couple, and the popularity helped CBS give them the go-ahead for their own show. I Love Lucy would premiere October 15th, 1951, and with the episode The Girls Want to Go to the Nightclub, a comedy version of Arnaz and Ball's real lives. The show centers on Lucy Ricardo, Lucille Ball, a wisecracking housewife, and her bandleader husband, Ricky Ricardo, Desi Arnaz. Other key characters are the Ricardos' landlords and miserly yet kind Fred Mertz, played by William Frawley, and his wife, Ethel Mertz, played by Vivian Vance, who begrudgingly helps Lucy in her wild schemes. I Love Lucy was the most popular show in America for 4 of its 6 primetime seasons. It would produce a number of innovations and become a standard for sitcoms. Arnaz and Ball lived in Los Angeles, and they insisted the show be filmed in Los Angeles, a break from the customary practice of broadcasting live in New York. The show also rejected the industry standard of kinescope and instead used high-quality 35mm film that helped preserve the footage. This paved the way for reruns and syndication. Nearly all the episodes still exist. In addition, multiple cameras are adjoining sets were used, allowing live studio audience to attend filming, which also became standard for sitcoms. If you've ever watched a lot of sitcoms, especially 70s, 80s, 90s, filmed before a live studio audience. Yeah. Arnaz developed these pioneering devices in part because Lucille Ball performed best in front of a live audience. But yeah, you'll probably remember a lot of Lucille Ball, I Love Lucy parts, because there's some things that are just so iconic. Like I said, Desi Arnaz coming home. Lucy, I'm home. Or Lucy and Ethel working in this factory, and they start putting, eating the bonbons or whatever they are that's coming across the line until their mouths get so stuffed. Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting parts that are just, even today, are iconic. Arnaz and Ball were the parents of two children, Lucy Arnaz and Desi Arnaz Jr. The 1953 birth we've already talked about. Same day that she gave birth on television, she had actually given birth of Arnaz Jr. Arnaz fought Hollywood's Hays Code, which prevented mentioning certain words and addressing sexual topics on television. And he consulted religious leaders for help in this campaign to work around the code. Yeah. There was such a squeamishness. Or, you can't mention this kind of stuff. People think just a few years ago it was so, puritanical. No, the further back you go, it got worse and worse and worse. But yeah, Arnaz's efforts were successful, though the term pregnant was replaced with expecting. The birth of little Ricky coincided, we talked about that. The show would help launch Arnaz and Ball's Desilu Productions. In an unexpected move in 1957, the couple used their fame and wealth to purchase RKO Studios, which they had filmed their first movie together, Too Many Girls, where they met. Desilu's other notable productions included the popular television series The Untouchables, the Mission Impossible TV series, and the original Star Trek, among others. Although the show would end in 57, it became an enduring classic. Yeah, we've discussed that. So many moments. Later in the year, they debuted the Lucy Desi Comedy Hour, which would run until 1960. That year, Ball and Arnaz's marriage ended largely because of his infidelity and struggle with alcohol addiction. Yeah. Ball ultimately bought Arnaz's shares in Desilu. She later credited him with building an empire, but also claimed that he lacked interest in running the company. In 63, Arnaz married Edith McHirsch and gradually scaled back his involvement in producing and acting. He made his last screen appearance in the 1982 film The Escape Artist. 4 years later, Arnaz passed away from lung cancer. So, last film appearance, 1982, and then dying 4 years later. According to his daughter, he and Ball expressed their love for each other on a telephone call shortly before he died. Like I said, it doesn't seem that it was hate, it was just irreconcilable differences, more or less. They still seemed very amicable and liked each other. In the autobiography of book, 1976, Arnaz wrote candidly about his alcoholism and affairs. So, yeah. And let's see if we can pick anything else up from Wikipedia here. Full name, Desiderio Alberto Arnaz y de Archa III. It's a mouthful. That's why most people just know him as Desi Arnaz. Yeah. 20 years to Lucille Ball. Lucille Ball is an interesting woman. all she went through and everything. I wonder if they tried to go after Desi also for supposed communist ties, since he at the time would have been married to Lucille. Cause yeah, Lucille Ball accused of communism, ties to communists during the Red Scare era of America. Yeah, we already talked about him coming from his father being the mayor of Santiago de Cuba and his grandfather being one of the lead members of Bacardi rum. So yeah. Apparently his great grandfather was also mayor of Santiago de Cuba. So yeah, they apparently held powers of wealth and fame, or wealth and positions of wealth and power. Um, we talked a lot about his career, serving in World War II, several movies such as 1940 40's Baton, starring Robert Taylor, and Arnaz would portray Felix Ramirez, a job-loving California National Guardsman. He would serve in the Army for the USO during World War II. Discharged as a staff sergeant on September 30th, 1945. Discharged in good standing. Yeah, working with Bob Hope as the orchestra head. And of course, Arnaz and Ball would come together and form the show I Love Lucy. Lucy, I'm home. It really is an interesting show to watch. Babalu. Desilu Productions. Excuse me. Yeah, expense of 35 millimeter films. Arnaz and Ball agreed to cut their own salaries, but would retain the rights to the films. Something attached to my shirt. Anyway, I think it was a bit of food and cracker I ate. Anyway, Desilu, they would separate. In the 70s, Arnaz co-hosted a week of shows with daytime host and producer Mike Douglas. Vivian Vance would appear as a guest. Remember, she played Ethel Mertz on the I Love Lucy show, so they have a history of working together for a long time. So the show was in the 50s. This was in the 70s when Vivian Vance would show up as guests. Guest host on Saturday Night Live with his son Desi Jr. also appearing. Spoofs of I Love Lucy were supposed to be earlier concepts that never made it on air. Or I Love Lucy and The Untouchables per Saturday Night Live, but they never made it on air, such as I Love Louie, where Desi lived with Louis Armstrong. He read Lewis Carroll's poem The Jabberwocky in a heavy Cuban accent and pronounced it Jabberwocky, which, if you know about Spanish, yeah, your J is often pronounced as an H. Javier, think of the name. Jesus, yeah. He would sing on the show, so he wasn't just hosting and acting. He got to do a lot. Other favorite from his dance band days, Cuban Pete. Let's see. They ended the show in a conga line, which, Desi Arnaz had helped introduce decades earlier, to the U.S. anyway. It wasn't something he just created, but 76, CBS paid tribute to Lucille Ball in the 2-hour special CBS Salutes the first 25 years. Both Ball and Arnaz appeared on the screen for the special, which was the first time they appeared together in 16 years since their divorce. When asked about returning to television in a 1976 newspaper article, Arnaz said, "People ask me to go back to TV, but the thing is, it's too tough competing with the Ricky Ricardo 20 years ago. He looks a lot better than I do." Arnaz made a guest appearance on the TV show series Alice in '78 and produced it was produced by co-creators Madeline Pugh and Bob Carroll Jr., who helped create I Love Lucy. So his last acting role was as Mayor Leon Quinones in the '82 film The Escape Artist. Yeah, Arnaz's marriage with Ball began to collapse under the strain of his growing problems with alcohol, gambling, and infidelity. And according to his memoir, the combined pressures of managing the production company as well as supervising its day-to-day operations had greatly worsened as the company grew much larger, and he felt compelled to seek outlets to alleviate his stress. He also suffered from diverticulitis, which is an intestinal issue. Ball divorced him on March the 2nd, 1960, which was coincidentally his birthday. That sucks. When Ball returned to weekly television, she and Arnaz worked out an agreement regarding Desilu Entertainment, wherein she bought him out. So Ball divorced him on his birthday in '60, but he would marry his second wife, last wife, on his birthday again 3 years later. So that's interesting. Although Arnaz and Ball both married other spouses after the divorce in '60, they remained friends and grew closer in his final decade. For Lucy's appearance at the Kennedy Center Honors in '86, Arnaz had written a statement. It was read by Robert Stack, host of Unsolved Mysteries, as a posthumous statement. Arnaz wrote, P.S. I Love Lucy was never just a lie, or never just a title. Yeah. So it was clearly a man who was flawed, but did have things he believed. And feelings he couldn't escape regardless. He received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. One for motion pictures and one for television. He would never be nominated for an Emmy, unlike his co-stars, for I Love Lucy. However, as executive producer of the series, he was nominated 4 times on the Best Situation category, winning twice. So, while his acting, he never got the Emmy or even nominated back as a producer. Yeah, he got nominated 4 times and won twice. 56 won a Golden Globe for Best Television Achievement, shaping an American helping to shape the American comedy through his contributions in front of and behind the camera of I Love Lucy, inducted into the Television Academy's Hall of Fame. Let's see, what else we got? BBC Radio 4 broadcast a serialized version of the play in UK in August 2020 as Lucy Loves Desi. A funny thing happened on the way to the sitcom, starring Wilmer Valderrama as Arnaz and co-starring Anne Heche as Lucille Ball. Javier Bardem portrayed Arnaz in 2021 biographical film Being the Ricardos, written and directed by Aaron Sorkin and produced by Amazon Studios alongside Nicole Kidman as Lucille Ball. He was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actor. And there's his filmography. Number of movies, television shows. As a producer, behind the camera, lots of stuff. As a writer, as a director. Soundtracks, because remember, he was a big band leader and everything before he even got into acting. But yeah, Desi Arnaz. Again, the guy clearly had troubles of his own as far as, alcohol and infidelity and everything, but it's clear he had an affection for Lucille Ball that just he wouldn't be able to get over, even though they would separate. Anyway, we'll go ahead and end this episode here. As always, educate thyself. Think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll be putting these links and sources in the description box below the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.